Have you ever been in a situation where you've paid for really expensive materials, you deliver them to site and can't get paid for them through no fault of your own because there's delays to site and you only get paid when they're installed? Well, this video is going to talk about that specifically and how we can avoid that particular thing happening to you. So, hey, my name is, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Cian Brennan. I am the CEO of a company called Contract Solutions. The reason we make these videos and the podcast is because there's so many construction companies out there that make little errors just like this one that ends up costing them a lot of money where they don't really need to. If they just understand a few little principles, they're going to make their lives so much easier, more profitable, and ultimately stay in business over a long period of time. Because in construction, there's ups and downs, things happen, there is risk. It's a very risky industry, and we want to minimize that risk so you can stay in business over the long term. So that's it. Get stuck into this video, implement it into your business, and it'll make a huge difference. Chat soon. Hey, construction legends. So today we're talking about what is often referred to in a contract as unfixed materials. So what we actually mean by that is materials that have not yet been installed, right? They have been delivered to site and they haven't been actually installed into the business, onto the project. Okay, so let me tell you a quick story. Earlier, I think it was 2 years ago now, there was a client telling us this story, and basically they were a steel fabricator, and so they get lots of steel, and they fabricate the steel and all of that sort of stuff. Okay, so but the problem is in their business they have to front a lot of money. And so they had this huge job to build a bridge. And it was, it actually had quite a bit of architectural steel, and it was a little bit more complex than just, steel beams. And so for those of you watching the video, you can see a picture of steel beams. As you're listening, just listen along. And so there was a ton of steel that needed to be bought in the first instance. And I think they said something along the lines, they bought $7 million worth of steel. And, there's lots of other trades that are involved in this construction project for the first part of the construction. A lot of civil is involved, a lot of concrete work to actually build the bridge, as well as obviously the steel is needed as well. But a lot of, those nice steel things that go over the bridge that makes it look quite fancy. And so there's a lot of other contractors on site as well, not just them. And so according to their schedule, they were to deliver this billions of dollars of steel to site. And they did so on time. And they were actually delayed by other contractors who hadn't finished the work. The project was delayed substantially. I think we're talking about 4 or 5 months delayed. And the problem that actually happened was their contract said that they wouldn't be paid for the steel until it was installed, until they had actually put it into the bridge. And so what happened there from a business point of view is what is important. They went out and they spent, I can't remember the exact figure, but I think it was $6 or $7 million. They got a loan for the $6 or $7 million to go. They got some credit and they bought it. And then obviously once they installed it, they would get paid for it, they'd pay back the loan. That's, common practice. However, they had now had a $7 million loan and they weren't getting paid for it, and now they're just paying interest on this $7 million every month, which is substantial. It's obviously a lot of money. And so that's no fault of their own. And that's what this unfixed materials clause will talk about, and that's what we want to make sure that we de-risk ourselves from this particular incident happening. So what is the problem we're trying to solve? Firstly, we need to understand if this is an issue or not for the particular company that we're talking about. So it's easy to just ask the question, is give them that example and then ask the question. But really, not every business needs to buy expensive equipment. A lot of them do, depending on what it is. But sometimes if it's a civil company, just go in and just digging holes and pouring concrete, or what it happens to be. Scaffolding companies it's not too big a deal either, unless they have to go and buy a lot of scaffolding to service their product. So really, we just need to understand if it is an issue or not. If it's not, we probably don't even need to deal with it. Okay, if it is a big issue, we need to deal with it. We don't want our clients' cash flow being hurt. This is a real cash flow thing. You find yourself in that situation, it's really hampering your cash flow. You spent $1 million, you haven't got the money back for it. It's a real, and on top of that, you're paying interest. So you haven't got the money, you can't cash flow the rest of your project. It's a real struggle. And we don't want our client losing money through no fault of their own, obviously, or you, whoever's listening to this. Now, what are we going to do about it? So the first thing we want to do is we want to negotiate an upfront payment for expensive materials. Okay? So that's the best case scenario. Let's get ourselves paid upfront for going to buy this steel. So it doesn't really matter. We get the money, we go buy the steel comes, and it doesn't really matter if we're delayed. That's best case scenario. Next one is you get paid on delivery. So you deliver it to the site and you get paid all of the money for it. Okay, that's great. The clients don't like that because you still haven't installed it yet. So they feel like there's a bit of a risk for them. Okay, so obviously understand. So, but you might want to have two different rates. One rate is to deliver it, and the next rate is to install it. So you get paid your delivery rate, and then you don't get paid. So that's the next thing. It's partially paid for delivery, and the remainder paid on installation. It's good to separate those things, particularly if it's an expensive thing. And the last one is probably least favorable, but it's definitely more favorable than leaving it as is you get paid on delivery. Excuse me, there's a typo in the presentation. Paid on delivery with the provision of security, which means that you're going to have to take out some sort of bank guarantee or insurance bond to insure against you not installing it. Okay, essentially to give the client some peace of mind that you're going to have to install it, which is still a far less cost than having to pay the interest on having to pay the interest on the loan that you've taken out, and also not getting the $7 million in that example. So there are four things that we need to do. So an upfront payment for expensive materials if we can do it, paid on delivery if we can get it, partially paid on delivery and remainder paid on installation. That's probably the most reasonable thing to ask for, and paid on delivery with the provision of a security to make sure that you go ahead and do it. You'll have to pay, obviously, the bank guarantee against that. However, it'll be substantially less than paying the interest on the loan, and also not getting paid the $7 million in that example. So that's it. Implement that into your next contract, and it should make a huge difference.